All right, welcome back to Sacred Masculinity. This is going to be part 2 of our sexuality talk. Is that? I think that
Male
was
sexuality.
male sexuality and looking at divine
Sacred sexuality.
sacred
Divine male
sexuality.
sexuality.
Yeah. And you know, if you haven't seen the first one, I'd probably encourage you to go and check that out because we really started to introduce, I guess, the concept of divine masculinity. And a part of that is your sexuality, and from a, I guess, the divine masculinity and femininity perspectives within us, what would that actually look like from a practical sense? And we had some really beautiful conversations around that, introducing concepts of Taoist, Tantra, sexual activities and the philosophy that sits behind that. We spoke about some toxic masculinity and I guess what divine masculinity looks like. There was even, and we even went into some of our, I guess, very private bits, so to speak, and how many times we masturbated over the last month.
Good question.
Which, and I think it's been a couple of, well, it was only last week, wasn't
Last
it?
week,
So
yeah.
I wonder how we went the last week. So I've got a bit of an update there.
I'm looking forward to it.
I know.
I'm looking
I've got some video too. Lucky this is a podcast and it's not visual.
Yeah. Well, this is visual. Yours, maybe.
Yeah. So anyway, Maurice Harvery-hall, we've got Ian Johnson, we've got Nathan Waters, and we've got Damien Cornford. So today, I guess, wanted to follow on from that conversation, probably get a bit of an update because we have been practicing subliming energies.
Yep.
Yeah.
Circulating the energy.
Circulating the energy, subliming the energies, and then also maybe even touching base and noticing how you're feeling around some of those things. I've had some interesting experiences as well. And then I also want to move into a discussion around porn because, you know, where there's male sexuality, invariably porn will come into it as
100%.
well. And I guess, is porn a bad thing? Can it be useful? Can I use it consciously and intentionally? Yeah. And what would be the purpose of porn in that respect there?
Yeah.
So I think initially, we can probably look at what is the playing field at the moment in relation to male sexuality and porn, and then start to then delve into sacred male sexuality and how porn could still be a part of that, or do we totally have to eradicate it?
Well, porn is such an interesting word because it's just people just classify porn as this, but it's such a breadth of experience.
It is,
like
yeah.
everything from like hardcore gangster, big dick stuff, right through to gangbanging, through to like really intimate erotica stuff, which is beautiful to watch, and you can feel the intimacy and love between the couples.
Yes, definitely.
So I guess, where in that do people pick and choose as well? Like, is one right? Is one wrong?
Well, that's a really good question, isn't it?
Yeah, like, that's just judgment on our part as well. Like, through, if everyone just had the same vanilla sex or vanilla lifestyle, like, there would be no contrast in life. So this is just a microcosm of the macrocosm of. You can tell I'm really pro porn, actually. I'm looking forward
to say, Jesus, your energy is really high. Maybe that's because you've been sublimed.
There's a notification on your phone from YouPorn saying you haven't checked in for
Let's go update. Credit card.
But yeah, I do think that. So from my own personal experience, yes, I've explored the whole world of pornography.
She even took over. We were supposed to be doing this. You said this process, and porn was the last thing. He's gone, right.
Let's talk about porn now. This is the last thing you just spoke about.
No, but he said we're going to go through this process, but go for it.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I'll just run with the energy.
Yeah, run with it. It's good. It's good stuff.
You've lost my train of thought now.
But
So
you've explored like a wide
breadth of
range.
porn.
yeah, wide range, and why not?
Which is interesting because I haven't explored I just go, I don't know if I want to go there.
Yeah,
I
I've
don't
seen
know
some
if I
stuff.
wanna
I've just
go,
gone,
what the
oh
fuck
hell
is that?
no, not watching that.
Yeah. Whereas
Like, seriously,
like,
women
I
getting
might
beat
be
and stuff.
more to one end and going okay, and then over my lifetime I've moved from one type of fantasy to another type of fantasy to more realistic, more more heartfelt connection, more probably what I'm searching for and what I'm trying to replicate in my life too. So it's interesting over the years what I guess it's like the shows that we used to watch. I was watching Baywatch the other day and I thought I can't believe I used to watch Baywatch.
So you've matured, Maurice.
Yeah. But,
Just like his porn.
Yes.
But the Hoff looked really good back then
Yeah,
too.
he did.
Yeah.
I was thinking more Pamela Anderson, but okay, we'll go with the Hoff then.
Because it is interesting. So I wouldn't say so. In experiencing all of that, so I've gone to experience all of that for good reason, because of the fact I've wanted to explore it, but also as well in those areas. Like some parts have never made me erotic, but it's just been like, well, okay, that's what they're experiencing. Good for them. That's their thing, but it's not for me. So that contrast allowed me to see then, okay, this is what I do enjoy.
True.
Oh, yeah.
And for me now, more the intimate pornography is or the personal stuff is a lot more what I'm attracted to at the moment. Let's say that might change next week. Who knows? But
Part 3.
Part 3.
Yeah. Okay. So there's a wide breadth of experiences that you can access,
Yes.
and once again, we're visually accessing it, which is activating something within us.
Yes. But then there's also the other part of me that asks the question, well, why am I activating it externally? Why aren't we activating it internally through our own intimacy? Like drawing through that energy, through that self-love, through that intimacy I'm building with myself. There's a practice I went through a little while ago where it was like, okay, well, I'm externalizing my intimacy still. I'm externalizing through porn, this erotica. Why am I not doing this all internally? And then life can reflect that.
But is that what you're externalizing there? Is that true intimacy? Just interesting.
No, it wouldn't be.
No,
So I'm interested in the word you were using. Like you were using that intimacy, but is it really intimacy?
It's arousal more than intimacy.
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
It's arousal.
More arousal.
But the arousal might be related to intimacy.
Is it a reflection of your space and time, potentially, that you start off at a younger age viewing pornography as this just simplistic wham bam, but then as you've matured as a being and you want the connection, the intimacy, you've turned on, but it still is an external source of what you're suggesting, but it's what you're sort of chasing in a way.
But what about if you're with a partner? Is that an external form of arousal as well?
That's a good question. I'd say that probably.
Bit both. I think you can make it both.
Yeah.
That's very true.
Or you participate.
I mean, it's the most amazing.
You're kind of participating more in that
Well,
experience, aren't you?
you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In some respects.
There's an exchange.
There is the connection and there is that ability to
Yeah.
take it to another realm.
So there's a different
But it is
level of intimacy, but I'm still using the other.
Yeah.
I'm not using the other, but there is another that then becomes, because when you think about it, your orgasm is in the mind. The orgasm isn't in the body. The ejaculation is in the body, but the orgasm is in the mind.
Which is an interesting concept to tell people, because I've said that to men before and they're like, It's like, well, think about it.
Yeah.
The chemical factory up here receiving the messages, you wouldn't have anything. You wouldn't experience it.
Yeah.
There's definitely a separation, in my opinion.
So, So,
The interesting thing I said is part of this is like I was watching a guy called Kung Fu Sex Master or whatever he's called.
Oh, yes,
Yeah,
yes.
you've seen him. So his interesting thing is our disconnect with the sexual intimacy is a reflection of also our disconnection with our natural environment as well. Because sex in nature is completely different to how we have it. Like a lot of animals only procreate to create. And there's a season, whereas we're just like fucking for the sake of fucking, if you like.
I heard that dogs actually will do it for the sake of pleasuring.
Yeah, I've heard
Male
there's a few
dogs
animals that
will.
do.
There's a few animals.
Dolphins.
Maybe
there's other
that's
animals,
because
yeah.
they're moving along in the density.
The awareness
Yeah.
stages.
Yes.
Yeah,
So maybe it's a
it's an
It's a
awareness.
progression.
It's
Yeah.
a
I am.
consciousness.
It's the I and I want this.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah, yeah. But then we turn it into so many other things,
Mm.
you know, which really, I guess, in a sense, are stimulations and arousals of the mind. Because you still, you know, there's only a certain number of ways that you can thrust your dick. Yeah.
I think it's unlimited.
Well, but it depends what you're thrusting
You've
it
got
into.
hip problems.
That's it. Like, you just need to cut back.
But is
on
that
thrust.
that typical, you know, human thing where, okay, well, this has gotten boring now, so what's the next level to make it more
I guess.
aroused and then you end up with some weird shit out there on
So
the
that sounds
internet.
like an addiction.
Well,
in a sense,
I
then.
know that I'm trying not to make that judgmental.
But I think
statement,
that's
weird
the
shit.
ego.
It is, yeah.
But
so
then you've got the other part of yourself, the deeper part of yourself that's drawn more towards the connection. Because for me, when I'm having sex with someone, you know, and there's an intimate connection, you melt.
Mm.
Like there's that,
Merge.
you merge, and I've been with a partner before where it's like, there's, our souls are like dancing, and there's like this kind of, I don't want to, like unleashing of consciousness or something where it's like, oof.
So that's the point of this conversation. How do we project that to the people watching, and how do you get to that point where it's not always just being about shooting your load off? That's what I think this conversation is leading to. Is like, how do you do that?
Yeah, if you want to be conscious, if you want to be a conscious male on this planet, and you want to engage in your intimacy through the sexual nature, but all the other levels of intimacy, how do I have an intentional relationship that has intentional sex, love making, and you know, we touched on it last week. We're talking about the three lingams. You know, lingam in the base chakra, lingam in the heart chakra, and lingam in the third eye. And I was just listening to it last week, and he said, "Can we have all three?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I think you can."
Yeah.
You know, so which lingam are you activating, and which lingam are you using to penetrate the sacred space of not only your partner, but I also then took it a little bit further and going, well, each and every day, how do I penetrate the sacred space of the womb of creation? You know, so and here I and so maybe even too our sexual energies. It's not, and we sort of came to that conclusion last week. It's not about me blowing my load. Right. How maybe my intimacy with life. Maybe that's actually part of my sexual intimacy.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, because it's all one big reflection.
It's one, yeah.
So I had during the week several epiphanies in that relationship with it, and when in the act and merging, and I was you know, it's like next level for me, almost like meditation next level. So you're converging. You know, we can do this with 20 people. Meditation.
Yeah, okay.
We can do this in other ways.
It's going to get messy.
It's
clean up all
I don't know. It's if the intention in that consciousness together merges, and we're into almost my thought processes. Why not? Is this not then maybe fifth density, whereby you're converging together as this one entity? You know, this collective consciousness. Is that the next stage if we're evolving through from the animal to this? Is that next level of being joined? You know, greater than what we perceive as sex. Sex is like a vessel or a tool to get to converge, mix with this other being in such an amazing, beautiful manner. And then there's the merging of all those entities into that orgasm, but not for the procreation, like the reproduction body type.
I kind of want to say it's actually not a merging. It's actually a removal of the illusion.
Yeah, okay,
That was
cool.
separate.
Yeah, so the illusion of separateness
Removing the body
is removed,
In
and
that moment, you're pretty well
and those
one.
two souls that are selves, selves, come together and merge. In that act, there's a remembrance or a unification of consciousness.
I see.
And that separation, illusion of separation, then disappears.
That my light I project out of my head and into the colourful field of and light being, and it's like we're playing, and it's just amazing. Yeah.
The thing that I learned through this week, because I'm going to do my research, was that, and it resonates with what you were saying just before about that male sexual energy, putting it into what we do during our day. So the stuff that I was watching is the guy who was saying, if we talk about, bringing it back to physical stuff. So what happens is when you ejaculate, we release prolactin, which then is basically a female hormone, which then turns us into a couch sloth. And for some guys that can last 7 days.
7 days.
7 days. And it also reduces your dopamine as well. So you become this sloth, if you like, who's not motivated and that sort of stuff. So if you're constantly doing that all the time, you're constantly depleting all that stuff. So exactly what you were saying, so this guy is saying, and it's about 7 days when guys will, testosterone starts to peak again. Not only that, there's other stuff where you reduce your zinc level. So it's interesting when I heard that a lot of bodybuilders will take what's called ZMA, which is zinc, magnesium, arginine, which is supposed to boost your testosterone level. So you're chewing all that up as well, so you basically physically worn yourself out. So what he's saying, by not physically orgasming during sex, but maybe having the full body orgasm, you're then able to channel your male energy into all this other stuff. So you think about it, when you're chasing a woman, you're full of energy, your testosterone surging, and you're like, so instead of orgasming that, you can channel that into all these other creative ways in your life. And so by not doing it all the time, maybe once a month, then you've got this energy to create in so many other ways, and you're not burning up your energy, your body's resources, you're actually sending it back in. So that's the biochemical process of it, which is interesting to understand rather than just like a spiritual side of it.
Cool. And that's a really nice balanced approach in, I guess, the physical and the cognitive and the experiential moments that we have with life throughout our days, and just energy levels and things like that too. And we can, and I guess from a mental health perspective, whenever we give someone an antipsychotic, the dopamine reuptake inhibitors, and what they actually do is they decrease the arousal level for young men. Okay, and what we then start to notice is that they become very amotivated. And it decreases their testosterone output. And testosterone is really important because that's where your passion, so you lose your passion for life. So if we're constantly, using up or, emptying the tank, and it makes sense with all of these other, neurochemicals and hormones, prolactin, all that sort of stuff, that you don't really have a zest for life.
Well,
you've lost your vitality, and you've got
no
no
dopamine,
passion.
you're not going to need pleasure for anything else.
That's
Even
right.
if it's coming at you, like, well, it's not doing anything for me. And the other thing interesting, and I spoke to Damo about this the other day, is that I'm pretty interested in biohackers, and so a lot of the guys are starting to talk about how the testes like to sit at 33 degrees. And that's when testosterone is at maximum production, best production. And we're all walking around with tight pants on and stuff, and so when we're exercising, so like you guys, mountain bikers, runners, you wear lycra. So when your testicles are heating up, you're actually reducing your testosterone production. And so in a way, Western society is castrating men in a little way as well. It's a good interesting way of putting it.
I've seen
And even these guys are starting to talk about, well, normally in nature, this is what we're talking about, disconnect from nature, we would get sunlight on our balls. And they actually there's research has shown these guys are working with, they put infrared light on their balls and it increases their testosterone.
I'm going to go down the Strand tomorrow.
Well, I know. Let's go. There's a good naked, but they stand there. There's one guy, Ben Greenfield, he stands at his work desk because he's a sit-stand guy with the fucking infrared light on his balls.
Oh, God.
And so, so that's interesting. It's another way society is, like, we're talking about chemical castration. We're talking about what is the physical impedance that we're suffering from.
Yeah, this is a cultural castration.
Yeah. Whether it's consciously done or we would say it's somewhere it's been done on purpose. We go down the conspiracy theories, but that's really
Let's
interesting.
go down that one.
But so that's another interesting thing. So it's, we can talk about all that spiritual side stuff, but we still also have to live in this physical realm and what's impacting on our male sexuality, and that's a big one. And we're all having really hot showers, sitting in a hot bathtub. What's that doing?
No.
I love hot baths.
True.
Yeah, I love it. But I've stopped that and having more cold showers now. as he's learning stuff. Yeah.
Well, the water's so hot anyway when it comes out of the tap now. It doesn't matter.
True.
So the point going back to before is talking about intentional self-pleasure and intentional sex.
Yes.
Because I think there is definitely in young men and females, because of masturbation as a tool for using pornography as a tool of escapism. Because you'll get a bit of a dopamine hit, and just make you feel a bit better, and then you can get on with your day.
True.
Or release some stress or something like this, instead of rather intentionally utilising it for the greater perspective of yourself.
Yes.
That creative power that it is. So channeling it elsewhere.
Yeah.
I mean, that's got to be hard for young guys, especially because they haven't had this testosterone, and all of a sudden it fucking ramps up at whatever age, and they've got to work out where they're channeling it.
True.
And society's going, no, you sit at a desk, and we'll teach you all day.
Totally.
Yeah. And no one's teaching any young men how to deal with the testosterone.
Yeah. And that's why I had a really good conversation with your son the other night about getting those young guys in here so we can help them work through some of this stuff, because they're probably all out there going, what am I doing with all this stuff? I don't know what's going on. They don't understand.
Absolutely.
It does take.
We didn't get any of that.
It does take discipline, though, doesn't it? To not just ejaculate.
Yeah.
Especially self-pleasuring.
Well, I've actually quite enjoyed it. Can we get personal?
Yeah, let's go to Damo's story. Well, you said we were going to check in.
Yeah.
Take it away. Damo
So obviously
because your number was interesting.
Still enjoying myself.
Yeah.
But not ejaculating.
Cool.
So, but I have ejaculated twice, and one was like, fuck it, I'm just going to enjoy it.
Yep.
And then after that I was like, why? I was like, I didn't want to then after that. I was like, I want to go back to actually enjoy this kind of process.
Right.
So it was a nice contrast.
Yeah.
Then the other time was I just pushed myself too far.
Yeah.
And I couldn't, you were
doing that!
the muscles just weren't strong enough.
Well, no, Stephen,
the
sexual kung fu guy says, because he was saying a lot of these guys teach you to actually squeeze your perineum.
Yeah.
But he says that has the opposite effect, it actually stimulates. So you've got to teach yourself to relax it.
Yeah.
So it's the opposite of what we do with our breath of fire. You actually got to. It's really interesting.
Actually, because I was subliming the other day. And
Oh, funny when you pointed at him there.
Yeah.
It was like subliming,
I was
mate.
subliming the other day, and I noticed that if I squeeze the perineum in a way that would normally be replicated with ejaculation, it actually pushed me further to that point. But then there's a subtle, it's a subtle shift of the muscles, where rather than the perineum is squeezed in a way that moves forward to ejaculation, it's an underturning into the anus.
What he said is to make it feel like you're trying to have a shit.
Yes, and I noticed the difference.
Yeah, so that's the difference. So it's a different muscle.
And then it moves it. So that's where it
shifts it back and
up.
up. So like that breathing technique you had, that breathing's probably makes sense, because you were teaching me that the other day. You go this way, so you're sending energy back up.
So in that moment I went, because I didn't feel like ejaculating. I went, hang on, I can. And so as I then squeezed it that way, then I did the microcosmic breath in breathing up into the pineal. And then into the heart and back around. So it was then, so I'd get to that point of arousal, and then stop, breathe, and then bring it and sublime it up, and then continue on with self-pleasuring. So then you get to these points where it was just, it was getting close to, but then you're able to then bring it back in, and But I lasted a month. And got to the point of no return with obviously my beautiful wife, and it was a really interesting experience because there was just so much semen because it
built up.
You
had
up.
DSB. Deadly sperm build up.
Deadly sperm build up. That's it. That was it. DEFCON 5, that sort of thing.
Semen toxicity.
Yeah, but like yourself too, Dan, I was like, that was a great orgasm, or there was a great ejaculation with the orgasm. And I thought, And I think at that point too, I thought, oh fuck, I've gone too far. Now I'm just going to have to come, you know. And then it was like, oh, okay, well, you know, it's happening. But I think if I had my time again, which I will have my time again, it'll be like I'm just going to go for it and I'm going to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it was once again a learning, you know, opportunity. But I had also noticed that when I was subliming, hyper aware, hypersensitive of what was going on around me, having these full-bodied orgasms that would come throughout the day of just this, you know, like
energy shifting through.
Yeah, energy shifting through, but then there's real contractions.
Yeah.
You know, so like they're very subtle. You know, whoa, okay, I'm just going to write this one out. You know, a little bit hard when you're driving the car, but you know, it's okay.
Brake.
But
Don't need the accelerator.
just noticing those, but you know, feeling quite good in myself. And I think, you know, last week, you know, you sort of, you know, saying that people notice the difference with you. You know, and I think it's quite palpable, the vitality that people have.
I've noticed that when I haven't had a partner for a while and I haven't been masturbating, the chicks are more interested. And I know that's also could go to the end of account with maybe your body's giving off more pheromones and stuff like that sort of stuff.
Also, you've opened up the doorway as well.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
But like I said, but he's the guy that sexual kung fu dude was saying you've got to be careful you don't go too far because you still need to use that energy. So if you're not using that energy at all, if you build it up too much, you still got to have somewhere to channel it.
Yes.
As well, otherwise it turns back in on you, or you get too much energy and you go do something stupid.
Yeah, that's right.
So that was interesting
Possibly
as well.
why a lot of men do stupid.
Exactly, especially young fellas. They've got all this fucking testosterone and.
Well, I think that comes down to it being shut down in one area. So when
it'll come
I
out
could
somewhere
feel
else.
it wasn't. So I could feel the edge of my field, but it was a different field. Did you notice that? It's like another cocoon of energy that sits inside your field. And at this peak, it was very full, and it was very easy for me to move that energy through, and I just felt full as well.
Yeah. But it's interesting you've been doing that because then all of a sudden you started talking to me about, I'm going to do this with my business and stuff like that. So your creative energy shifted into somewhere else. I noticed that when you were talking to me the other day.
I think that's also happening because as I'm healing as well, I'm realigning back in my purpose.
Yeah, that too.
Yeah.
So. What else do we want to say? So the important thing is obviously about that is intentional self-pleasure, intentional sex. I think is the most important thing. And
I think it's okay for every now and again just to go, hey, let's thank you, man.
It's a human experience. You got to enjoy the whole spectrum.
Yeah, because that's arousal on another level as well.
Yeah.
You know, you want to be able to ping all of the neurons in your brain.
Yeah.
Yeah, not just one second.
Yeah, it reminds me of the saying out of I've read the book Way of the Peaceful Warrior.
Yes.
It says if you're going to do something, just do it properly.
Yeah.
If you're going to have a drink, have a drink.
Yeah.
Don't question it. Just, okay. Feel guilty about
There's
it.
always the guilt that then's associated to it, which is interesting conversation. So.
Good book though, by the way. Anyone wants to read it?
Dan McMillan?
Yeah. There's a second one too.
Yeah.
I can't remember what it's called.
Good one. So, porn is neither good nor bad. It's a spectrum of experiences which create arousals within the person that's watching.
Yep.
Yeah. We could say that it's an industry that is based on service to self.
Yep.
You know,
or service to others as well.
others. You know, so but under the law of one,
It's all the
everything's still okay. Yeah. How one uses it can either be intentional or unintentional.
That's more the point.
Yeah. Well, it's more of really the intent. Well, it's always intentional, isn't it?
Well, you can have a subconscious intention,
Well,
which is driven by the default mechanisms of the mind.
Yeah.
Yeah, instant gratification. You know, you don't wake up in the morning and go, I want to be instantly gratified today. You know, it's more so this is what my evolutionary mind is seeking. You know, we chase carrots and we avoid sticks. Porn can be a carrot. It can also be a stick if we, mixing with it in the wrong way.
negative ego.
Yeah. So if it's conscious intention, and using that as a tool to create arousal, and then depending on obviously, and it's not, and we're not actually saying, well, you know, it's conscious intention if you're looking at the really caring, intimate ones, because that's not the case. Well, you know, whatever's, you know,
whatever floats your boat.
whatever floats your boat, in a sense, yeah. But also, I think too, to become aware that this is not as much as it's a reflection of what the porn industry is creating, and it can be a reflection of some of the experiences that you have. It doesn't mean that we're trying to normalise that this is how your sexual experiences are going to happen.
Yeah.
So if one is dependent on that type of sexual experience having to happen, and then I'm trying to replicate it in my life, you might be bitterly disappointed. So that's,
and that does happen a lot.
It does happen
a lot of men who do have those kind of issues.
Yeah.
I think there's women that watch that porn too. I think that's how they've got to behave in the bedroom.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's very
That's
true.
what we're expected to do.
Yeah. And so, you know, from that physical level, you know, we're also then looking at, you know, ejaculation versus orgasm. Can I sublime? You know, so can I sublimate that sexual energy back into the system to then use it in other ways? Can I use that passion and the testosterone to move into other areas within my life as well? You know, am I draining my tank, you know, without intention, or am I holding and filling my tank with an intentional purpose of meeting life and you know, penetrating the sacred womb of life? You know, with my intentions and with, you know, from I guess a male perspective, that which lingam are you using?
How would that look practically? Penetrating the womb of life.
Well, I think that, you know, and we do this each and every day. We penetrate the womb of life with the lingam in the heart.
Yeah, you're creating.
Yeah.
In what way?
In the way that, in what we're, you know, cacao ceremony, community. You know, this is service to others.
Yeah. So
it's
really
from a
active.
heart space.
Okay. So it's that creative energy.
Yeah.
I mean, essentially we're creative beings based on the Creator. So
raising the vibration.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your idea is to be here to create experiences.
Yeah. And then we also penetrate using the lingam of the third eye in creating vision.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. And then, you know, we've got the lingam of the root chakra, you know, through our sexual union, you know, physical intimacy, sexual intimacy in that way too. So, but you know, we can penetrate the womb of life, the womb, you know, the sacred space of another self with our conversations, with our sense of union.
Yeah.
You know.
This is the stuff I've been talking about this week. You know, this is
beautiful.
Absolutely.
You're in the state of making
absolutely
love.
The dance of life.
Oh, dude, it's just beautiful.
Yeah. And so you get to make love each and every day.
Yeah. Oh, it's I love it. Yep. Incredible.
It doesn't even have to be with another person. It can just be with whatever's in nature.
Just nature.
Yeah.
Source.
The dog. That kind of sounds weird. But you know. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So having intimate conversations.
Intimate conversations.
Yeah, like
intimate connections.
That phone conversation I had with you the other day, I walked away from that just feeling so full. It was great. You know, you really walked away full of. It was great. But it died then. It was awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, when you can say that.
Yeah, it was. I just was so full just from a conversation. I was like, wow, how cool is this?
And you're raising this vibration of vulnerability, and you're getting, and it's interesting that some people are actually sort of having physical reactions, and they're going like, what's going on? I'm actually shaking and trembling, and you're like, yeah, isn't it amazing?
The beautiful thing I've noticed is how now, because I've changed how I'm turning up, other people are turning up differently. It's like, it's just amazing. It gives me
beautiful.
It's like, this does work.
Totally.
I'm changing me, and the people in my life who I was like, wishy change.
So beautiful.
And they just turn up different. Like, wow, this is cool.
Seems like the cup that is holding these intimate conversations is appreciation.
It's gratitude.
Gratitude as well.
Gratitude, Which is up there near love, isn't it? Isn't it love, gratitude, or compassion? It's very, whatever the spectrum is. They're close.
But we're really coming from that heart space too of union. Because this is, you know, the yellow rays separation. It's power over. You know, we're seeing that there's a self and another self, and everything is the universe appearing as that thing. The universe appearing as a glass, as a jug, as a table, as a person. Everything is the universe appearing as that. So you go, well, how could there be any separation? It's just that it's a localized form of consciousness. We're all in the universe.
We are the universe?
Well, we are the universe, of course, yeah. We're an expression of the universe.
There's galaxies inside of us.
Yes, there is. So
I do struggle with that concept a little bit. I cognitively, it's like there's a galaxy inside.
The really good way I think of it is when you look at it as from an organ sort of thing. Why did these little cells here all of a sudden decide we're going to work together and do this function? So that's its own little microcosm organism that's got, and you can see that, okay, well on Earth we're a group of cells, if you like, just not big multiple cells. And the other interesting way of looking at it is that there's more cells in our body that aren't actually us.
That aren't us.
No, there's more bacteria and stuff inside. So when you think that which control our thoughts and emotions and production of chemicals and all sorts of stuff. So when you say that, like, that even makes it more we are the universe, because what I think is really me is not me. It's a bunch of other bacteria and funguses and viruses
and from a
stuff.
Just mindful of time, and this is another podcast I'd really like to step into, is that from a quantum physics perspective, there's a thing called a Planck second. So a Planck second is 332,000 seconds, or 332,000 seconds within 1 hour seconds. Okay, so
32,000th of a second.
Yeah, okay, that's called a Planck second. Now that's not the smallest one, but it's the smallest one that they can measure. Yeah, okay. So there's a lady called Marina Jacobi, and she channels some really beautiful works, and she's channeled a thing called the quantum reactor, I think, the harmonic reactor. And the way that she explains that and through quantum physics is saying is that every one of those 332,000 times per second you make and remake yourself. All right? So, and this is, when...
Important what you're thinking.
Yeah, so epigenetics comes into that, all right? It's just that because it happens so quickly, we don't necessarily see it. But the portals of how we make and remake ourselves, and the portals of how we shift in vibration and reality, are actually through black holes. So you make and remake yourself 332,000 times per second via a black hole. Now, it's interesting that we look out there and we go, oh, there's black holes out there, and when we look through the law of one, the black hole is the entrance to another octave. All right? So you've got galaxies within you because you're accessing the transporter cells to another galaxy within you, 32,000 times per
That's why
second.
Abraham Hicks says you have the power of the universe inside of you.
So see how the macro and the micro are actually reflective of each other, and this is how I believe space-time is.
Oh, yeah.
Because it envelopes into itself.
Yeah.
It doesn't exist outside of you, it actually turns back into you. So as much as you look out there, and what you're seeing out there is actually what's
reflecting
in
what's
here.
Yeah. That's all reflecting.
Anyway,
and that's all.
That's a little bit off porn, but
God, that was a great orgasm. Thank you.
that was a full body.
Get them off.
Cool. Well, that's part 2. I don't know if we'll bring back a part 3, but I'm sure
I think
we'll
we should.
continue.
Yeah, I think there's more to discuss.
There's
talk
definitely
about that.
so much more discussion.
Maybe if we actually talk about some of the exercises.
Yeah, I think
I think that because now we've opened the door. Well, okay, what do we do?
And also how women play a part in this as well.
Yeah.
Like how we work with them in terms of this and explain it to them.
Yeah, that's a good one because I haven't broached that subject yet.
Yeah. But no, then I was thinking other stuff like how, I was talking about male castration. You look at the female pill has done a lot to their sexual life. Like, I know
definitely.
A friend of mine's partner worked for one of the companies that sold it, and through working that out, she worked out how it was killing her sex drive. She changed the pill and changed.
Yeah, definitely. And we've seen that with
So
different
how that
types
then
of contraception.
impacts on men who go, well, and then
There's so much
I've got
more
no
to
sex drive.
Yeah.
Hey?
We've got another 3.
Okay.
Oh, there's a fair
We'll
few.
continue. We'll continue.
We don't have to do them one after the other.
No. Yeah, cool. But thank you very much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time and energy and your presence in staying with us. Hopefully you stayed with us. And we didn't lose anyone today because of the 10 Commandments. So
I did have a comment.
Oh,
I was going to say it didn't come up.
we'll let that go as well.
I
Cool.
was going to say something.
All
Just
right.
to follow on from that from last week.
Thank you very much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you all.
We'll see you again.
Cheers.